people, welcome back to A to Z English Literature channel. I'm Susan. Today I'm going to talk about T.S Eliot's Dissociation of Sensibility or Unification of Sensibility. So, dissociation of sensibility is a literary term used by T.S Eliot in his essay The Metaphysical Poets. The Metaphysical Poets was first published as a review of J.G. Grayson's edition of Metaphysical Lyrics and Poems of the 17th century. In this book, Eliot has thrown new light on the metaphysical poets and shown that they are neither cant nor fantastic but great and mature poets. They do not represent a digression from the mainstream of English poetry but rather a continuation of it. So in this essay, Eliot has used these terms dissociation of sensibility and unification of sensibility. T.S. Eliot examines one by one with suitable illustrations the characteristics which are generally considered metaphysical. So the major characteristics of these metaphysical poets are they use the elaboration of simile, device of the development of an image. The metaphysical produce their effects by sudden contrast, right? For example, in the line, a bracelet of bright hair about the bone, the most powerful effect is produced by sudden contrast of the association of bright hair and bone. So, this great critic T.S. Eliot loved the works of metaphysical poets. He stated, "Look at the way they have clipped two dissimilar ideas very beautifully, which can never be done by Victorians or Romantics writers who preceded them." So, T.S. Eliot praised the metaphysical poets. According to T.S. Eliot, the writers from the Elizabethan and Jacobean age were able to fuse different things together and were able to produce works which were classic and extremely marvelous. But during the Restoration, Enlightenment and Romantic and Victorian periods, this unification of sensibility was not presented, and he says that Milton and Dryden, these writers were the masters of the language, but they were not the masters of the soul. By unification of sensibility, Eliot means a fusion of thought and feeling, a recreation of thought into feeling, a direct sensuous apprehension of thought. Such fusion of thought and feeling is essential for good poetry. So, Eliot finds such unification of sensibility in the metaphysical poets and regrets that a dissociation of sensibility set in the 17th century writers. So, dissociation of sensibility seen in the works of Romantics and Victorian writers. They were not able to fuse things together, and Tennyson, Browning, they are not able to fuse things together. Do you get that point? Tennyson and Browning are poets and they think but they do not feel their thought as immediately as the odor of a rose. A thought to Donne was an experience. It modified his sensibility. In the modern age, we can see again the unification of sensibility in the works of modern writers because the modern writers suffered from worldwide traumas, fragmentation, marginalization, depression, delineation, and so on. And all these dissimilar things are there. All these writers, they are able to talk about the dissociation things together and unify them, and that is how they carry the legacy of Elizabethans and Jacobeans. So, I am concluding this topic. The great Elizabethans and early Jacobeans had a developed unified sensibility which is expressed to their poetry. By sensibility, Eliot does not merely mean feeling or the capacity to receive sense impressions. He means much more than that. By sensibility, he means a synthetic faculty, a faculty which can amalgamate and unite thought and feeling. which can fuse into a single whole the varied and disparate, often opposite and contradictory experiences. The Elizabethans had such a sensibility. They were widely read, they thought on what they read, and their thinking and learning modified their mode of feeling. Eliot gives concrete illustrations to show that such unification of sensibility, such fusion of thought and feeling is to be found in the poetry of Donne and other metaphysical poets, but it is lacking in the poetry of Tennyson and Browning and the Romantic poets. So friends, this brings me to the end of this session. I will come back with T.S. Eliot's theory of impersonality very soon. So stay tuned. Ta-da! Bye-bye.